Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. Today, we bring you a special edition focusing on Galamsey that is threatening our very survival. It's been destroying flora and fauna. It's been destroying farms and cocoa. And when we say cocoa, you know what it means. We are in trouble now as far as our currency is concerned. And we are depending on what cocoa money or cocoa hard currency can bring to change the circumstance of the economy. Galamsey has been destroying lives and destroying livestock. It's been destroying water and our communities. In the course of this week, you have seen videos and pictures of Galamsey happening right in the middle of communities, in front of homes and at the back of houses. It's been destroying, or it seems to want to destroy yesterday, to destroy today, and destroy tomorrow. Have the leaders failed on this one threat? And what are the citizens doing about the Galamsey fight? This morning, I have a simple question for you. If you were the president, if you had executive power, if you were an MP or you were a chief, what actions will you take to end Galamsey? Will you say, like some of the chiefs have told us from the Ashanti region, that they are powerless about what is going on in their backyard? What can you do as an individual citizen? And be reminded that what they call presidential or executive power, judicial or parliamentary, political or traditional authority or power are donated people power. That is the real lasting power. What can you do with yours? This is Newsfile, exclusive edition on Galamsey threatening our very survival. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. We'll be right back to deal with the matter that promises to destroy this country. Welcome back. Here is Samson Stake. Dear Auditor General, don't just report the rot, collect the stolen money. Friday last week, the Auditor General held a closed-door meeting with the Citizens Coalition. This was after the demonstration compelled by his refusal to meet the coalition that has been demanding he issues disallowances and surcharges. Since assuming office in August 2020, Mr. Johnson Akua-Amwai-Siedu has issued only one surcharge for an amount of about 1 million Ghana cedis. An audit found that Mohammed Suraj, an accounting officer at Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate in the Ashanti region, failed to lodge the money being revenue collected between 2014 and 2019. What he did, according to the auditor's report, was to falsify Bank of Ghana stamp on pay-in slips to give the false impression that he had lodged the money into the Directorate's Bank of Ghana accounts. He, it appears, has not complied with the surcharge to pay a total of about 1.5 million Ghana cedis. First, tell me why such thievery should result only in a refund and not prosecution. those who steal a bunch of plantain to survive do not get to be asked to replace it or pay and go without punishment. At least they get a record of criminal conviction. That means a lot to have a criminal conviction on you. Well, he says, the Auditor General says he handed matters to the Attorney General who has not acted. The Attorney General is upfront that there has been, quote, inordinate delay and significant tardiness, end quote, taking action on surcharges. He expects the Auditor General to be forthcoming with information he has requested to assist his work. The two assure that they have set up some special committees to fast-track processes regarding disallowances and surcharges and prosecution of the offenders. What the coalition does not understand is the inertia and inaction in the face of evidence that his predecessor, Daniel Domelevo, who was hounded out by the president for simply doing his work and doing it so well, recovered 67 million within a brief period of issuing over 100 disallowance and surcharges. The coalition is simply giving impetus to sustain demands by Occupy Ghana, which secured a Supreme Court judgment fortifying the Auditor General's power and ordering it to always disallow wrongful expenditure and surcharge those who stole money, incurred loss, or misapplied funds. Occupy Ghana calculates there is some 48 billion Ghana cedis misapplied or stolen money in the 2016 to 2020 report. Auditor General's annual reports, he reported 17 billion Ghana cedis in his 2021 report. But why is he not issuing disallowances and surcharges for whatever is recoverable from the total of 65 billion Ghana cedis from his report since 2016? Who are the people tried or standing trial in court for stealing the poor taxpayers' money since the Auditor General started issuing reports in this republic? Ask yourself that question. It is Domelevo who started issuing disallowances and surcharges after Occupy Ghana went to court. Before that, what was happening? In fact, the Judicial Service had announced that it has set up over 12 courts within a certain period for prosecution of people who stole money and had been caught through the Auditor General's report and brought to the Public Accounts Committee. But for 2 years, not a single of those cases were brought before any of those courts in this country. Well, now we know that actions taken between 2017 and 2020 yielded 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. Since he took office in August 2020, he has got some people account for over 900,000 found to be due to the state during audit activities. This has been paid into a fresh account he set up this year. Dear Johnson Ekwamoa Siedu, the Citizens Coalition, and all Ghanaians, thank you for the up-to-date figures on the recoveries made between 2017 and 2020. Thanks for agreeing with us on the need to issue disallowances and surcharges. Please, just go ahead and issue them and leave the Attorney General to prosecute where necessary. In fact, you disregard the Supreme Court's orders at the risk of 10 years in jail for the offense of high crime if the Attorney General will follow the court's order to him to ensure that you comply strictly with those orders. People stealing and misapplying public funds must feel there are consequences for such conduct. Until then, Ghana will continue to go abroad cap in hand, asking the IMF for some 16 billion Ghana cedis when a few people misapply or steal a whopping 17 billion or more each year. Sir, you would have failed in your anti-corruption mandate. You would have failed Ghana, and you would have failed as an individual and head of such an important independent constitutional body. Just issue the surcharges and disallowances. That is my take. I'll be right back to introduce my guest and for us to look at how to avoid Galamsey's threat against our very survival. Our water is polluted. Our cocoa is being flagged as something that may not be sold in the international market. Homes are coming down and some risk damage when it rains, as Galamsey is going right in front of homes and behind in the backyards. We'll be right back.
Enyinamso number 1 and 2 are twin farming communities recently taken over by mining in the Achumang-Wabieja district of Ashanti. The entire river belt of the river Enyinam has been taken over and destroyed by illegal miners, even as the government's Operation Halt fights mining close to water bodies across the country.
So this is what remains of the river Enyinam. It has been stopped right here, and the miners are now digging deep within the river bed itself. And so it is denying farmers here water to water their crops and even use it to spray their cocoa farms. And as you can see, the river bed has been blocked here, and so definitely when it starts raining, there's going to be a huge overflow which will destroy their cocoa farms over to the other side.
Cocoa farms are bought by miners for between 10,000 and 25,000 cedis. Those who will not sell, like Boache Mensah, sometimes find themselves cut out from their farms by the miners.
They are frustrating us to force us to sell our farms, but we won't, because it's a legacy for us and our children's children.
Some farmers are incensed with illegal mining activities here.
We are appealing to government. The Chinese are destroying cocoa farms. Every mined area here used to be a cocoa farm that could have served our country well.
But some of the miners claim they are operating legitimately even in the middle of the river. Thomas Arthur claims he works for a licensed mining company.
Small-scale mineral commission for the NIAC company.
This is a small-scale mining site awarded to NIAC by the Minerals Commission, and we are working with them. It extends to Kukubiso and Ekradada. For the destruction to the river, we came to meet it.
Close to the main Nkarie-Bebiani road, miners are busily digging close to the asphalt. Also, within the Enyinamso number 2 township, some Chinese miners are boldly mining away with huge equipment. Until the government intervenes, farmers and cocoa farms are at great risk of mining. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko. Enyinamso, Ashanti region.
So, what you see, I'm sure that you have seen even more horrendous pictures, very frightening footages about what Galamsey is doing to our dear country. You have seen footages and pictures where the Galamsey is going on right in the middle of communities where residences are. They dig and dig even to the compounds of these homes and right behind the homes. You see danger lurking. We will begin by going to the phone lines to speak to our Western North Regional Correspondent, Augustine Boer, who's been reporting for Adom Boa. Augustine Boa, who has been reporting for Adom FM. Augustine, thank you very much for making time to join us this morning.
Good morning, Samson.
Right. So, Augustine, tell us about the situation in this particular area where this week people have been angered, livid, irritated by the pictures they have seen, the footages they have seen on television, where the mining is going on right in the middle of compounds, all right, around the Lobo area. Tell us what is going on. And we hear about the protest of the residents, but they are not getting the support of community leaders the way they ought to. Not the police, not the Environmental Protection Authority, and the rest of them. Give us a picture of what the situation is at this place.
Well, Sansi, thank you. I'm talking about a Lubo community where we've seen pictures trending on various social media platforms. It is quite disturbing. Samson, when you come to Jaboso district, Lubo, as we've seen on the social media, is not the only place the illegal mining is ongoing. Lubo is not far from Jaboso, the district capital. Like I would say 50 minutes drive from Jaboso, the district capital, to the community. And it is not just a community like we say in the bush. It is near the road where the DC, the district chief executive, passes almost every day to work. And then the district NADMU director, Mr. Augustine Kroma, the Lubu community is where he lives, where he was born and grown up. And the chiefs, the residents, they live there. Not that they are clearing the place for a different purpose, but they have seen that where they live, there is gold there. So definitely they have to mine it and they use it for their own purposes. Samson, talking about Galamsey in the Lubu and Jaboso district, it is very obvious to say that in the district, which is the Jaboso township, the activity is ongoing. The residents have been protesting, taking a lot of actions against the activity, but it yields no results. So it's like the residents, they are doing their part to stop these illegal activities. But the authorities to intervene, to speak, to calm those people down, Samson, we don't see those acts. So the illegal mining activity keeps on going in the Jaboso district.
But we have seen that the activities are going on right in the compounds of homes. What are those who live in these, homes, houses. What are they saying? Are they just watching? Or they are actually also culpable?
Yes, they are not just watching, as we can say, but they don't have that power to stop those mining in the community. When they try or do any attempt to stop them, the miners will tell them that they have the license or whatever. So stopping them just by mouth, something, it has become very difficult for the people living over there. They've tried their best, the chiefs, the assemblyman, and the residents, but still.
What is it that they have done that you describe as they haven't tried their best?
Yes, according to the resident, they've reported to the Daboso District Police Commander, Chief Superintendent Samuel Toso, the Daboso District Assembly, of which Honorable Godfred Kwabena Asante is the District Chief Executive, and the National Security Coordinator, Kwame Kento, and other stakeholders. But the activity keeps on going in the community, right in the middle of the community.
But we can see some of them obviously losing their homes. And you say they seem powerless?
Yes. And something, as we're talking about Galamsey, most of their residents, they give their lands to these illegal miners. So if, assuming I'm the owner of the land, and I've landed the portion of the land to the illegal miners, you see, the chief either way has no authority to stop them, unless the landowner. So mostly the residents, they give their land to these illegal miners to operate. So the Elubu community, some have given their land to these illegal miners. And the miners too, they have a certain power backing them. So nobody can stop them just like that.
So the police, the environmental protection, forestry officials, whoever they are around the place, and also, as you say, the chiefs may say they are powerless, but is that really true? What are these other duty bearers? What are they doing? What are they saying, at least?
Something, since there is, the operation is ongoing, we can say for the fact that they've done nothing to stop this illegal activity. Because if they had done something, I'm sure by now the activities have been stopped.
All right. Before you take leave of us, give us a picture of these communities in Elubu, what you see when you go there. And we were supposed to have you there this morning to report right from the scene of these devastation, but we understand that we need you alive, and that's the reason you will not be there. But you have been there before. Tell us what you have seen there.
Yeah, right now when you go to the community, you've dug some big holes, some in the presence of the compound, back of their houses. So you can see a crack in their building, almost about 2/3 of the buildings around at Fort now, because due to the activity ongoing, the community is not in good standing. Talking about the topographic system of the community, it is quite devastating, as we can say. So it is not good for working at night, children roaming around, and strangers, walking around in the community, either day or at night.
All right. Thank you very much. And please take care. Augustine Boa is ADOM correspondent in the Western North region. He has been to the scenes that you have seen in the course of this week, particularly on social media and on some television stations, the footage that you have seen about Galamsey going on right in the compounds of homes. And you see some of the buildings, they've become death traps. He has been there, he has seen them, but unfortunately this morning, he's unable to return to that place because for very obvious reasons. The people who are into these activities, illegal activities, have turned themselves into some militia of sorts, and they wield gunpowder that, if you are not careful, they deal with you. Thank you for joining us. This is Newsfile. It's our exclusive edition on the Galamsey menace that the country has been trying to fight. And this photograph is courtesy Professor Gladys Ansah Nyako. Nyako Ansah, you would recognize that they, from the University of Ghana, together with York University, have been doing some investigations. And she joined us last week and told us how farmers are buying sachet water. Now, if you don't get what is going on, this is the representation. Farmers are buying sachet water to mix their chemicals. The water that runs in the streams around the communities and in the various ponds, even in the rainy season, where it is raining so very often, is not deemed clean enough to be used to mix chemicals. They need to buy sachet water for that. Please get that, and that's the representation of what is going on. We'll tell you what the Ghana Water Company is telling us about the level or the turbidity of the water, and how they have told us even before now that you may be buying water that they have to import. Do you want to get there? Think about what action you can take yourself. So this morning we'll be speaking to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and MP for Damongo, Samuel Abu Jinapor. We'll also have Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu, who is Executive Director, Environmental Protection Agency, that's the EPA, environmental scientist, natural resource expert, that's who he is, and he's also a lawyer. Let's find out how much of all of these expertise he is putting into the use of the states to stop this Galamsey. Here in the studio is Inusa Fuseni, former Minister, Lands and Natural Resources. He's also a lawyer. He's told us stories, you remember, right here on this show some years ago, and now also retelling those stories about the risk, even in being a minister that is supposed to check what is going on. The risk to it. Also, we have Engineer Clifford Brahima, who is Managing Director, Ghana Water Company Limited. We have Fifi Boafo, Head of Public Affairs, Ghana Cocoa Board. And they will tell you the heart-wrenching story about what is being done to our cocoa. They have actually done, some investigation and gathered reports, which Bloomberg and other international bodies are using to tell the world about what is happening to our cocoa if we don't take care. They are trying to do their best, but let's see how much they are overcoming. Dr. Jesse Aivo, a Senior Research Fellow, Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, University of Ghana, and member, University of York, UK, and University of Ghana research team, who are investigating these issues of Galamsey. Kwame Sapong, a CEDU, D&D Fellow on Public Health and CDD Ghana. He's a pharmacist. He's a member of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain, Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, and the Institute of Pharmacy Management International. We'll be telling you about what the doctors are telling us now, which was obvious. He had spoken to us years ago and told us about the dangers that the cyanide that is going into and the chemicals that is being pumped into the water and even on the land will kill us. Now we are being told of how exactly, directly, the chemicals are beginning to kill Ghanaians. Dr. Solomon Owusu is a mining consultant. He's in Colorado, USA. He's a campaigner, a very vociferous advocate against what is going on, including his own, hometown, where the river is completely polluted in a manner that he didn't see when he was leaving the country for the United States of America. Francis Opoku is Director of Finance and Communications, Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. What have they also been doing wrong or right, even at a time when government is trying to win the galamseyers off and for the small-scale miners to do what is right? Maybe government needs to go back to the decision of a ban. Is that where we have to get to now? All right. Now, let's welcome you all, gentlemen, on Zoom and on phone, and also Inus Afuseni right here in the studio. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Great. So I don't have Kokofu yet. I wanted to start with him, but let's go to Clifford Brima. Dr. Clifford Brima, thank you very much for making time to join us. You were with us some time ago, and you told us about, what to expect. Are you surprised that in spite of the measures that government rolled out, we are still seeing the threat to our water bodies and the water that you must treat for us to drink?
Thank you very much, Samson. If you are dealing with the human brains, there are measures that you put in based on certain factors that you consider. But implementing such policies, you realize that you did not think of them broadly enough. And so there's the need for you to go back to the table, really look at the decisions that came into, or the assumptions that came into your decision. Galamsey, people are looking for livelihood. And NGOs will say that there is unemployment. And for that matter, people must get some resources. But we are also guarded by rules and regulations. And that no citizen can move in and do anything because we all belong to the country. The freedom for you to throw your hand surely will end where my nose is, because if you hit my nose, it's an assault. So another thing begins. And for that matter, citizens, everybody must come together for us to get this thing working. Do citizens believe that the activities they do around our water bodies have direct implications on their survival? That's a question we need to ask ourselves. If they do not believe in it, what they will do is to always look around how to escape, how to find another way of outwitting the law enforcement agencies. For us in Ghana Water Company, we take advantage of the resource itself to produce water for citizens. But we do not have the role or the power to monitor the water bodies. It is Water Resources Commission.
Right.
In all these activities that we are carrying out, at what position have we placed Water Resources Commission? Have you gone to Water Resources Commission to look at even the offices they work in? And I think that for us to be able to fight these menace, water resources must be strengthened adequately to give them the necessary power to do what they have to do, and then resource them adequately. If you look at Minerals Commission, they give licenses to miners. They go to EPA, they give them approval. Why don't they get to Water Resources to say that, look, where you are allocating to them is within our buffer? Why have they been left out in the approval processes? If we don't get them involved, we are going to have challenges. And I think that this Galamsey menace, we must expand it, because if you really want to guard our water bodies, it must be comprehensive. If you go to Tamale, Dawuni, it is not Galamsey. It is Sanwini. And they are polluting the water seriously.
Okay, so your proposal, immediately I can hear from you, one important proposal you think will work is that if that is not the case presently, Water Resources Commission must play a role, or actually be the one to, give a go-ahead that this area you can mine or not mine.
Exactly. Because they protect the water bodies, and Ghana Water Company Limited gives to Water Resources abstraction fees. What it means is that the state is telling Ghana Water Company that the resource from which you are taking your raw water to treat for citizens is not yours. And that is why there's a fee we pay on a monthly basis to the person who regulates the use of the water. So why will people come working around that resource, and the people who regulate its use are not being involved?
Okay.
And so we need to do that. And
right.
It has to broaden it beyond Galamsey and look at other activities. If you go to the Densu, Weja, it is not Galamsey,
right.
but the water there is polluted.
So let me share this with you and then get you to tell us what the implications really are. In 2019, at the height of in 2017, at the height of the Galamsey situation, the turbidity of water in the Birim River was about 11,000 NTU, as against what we're told was a massively improved level of 50 NTU. Then, in 2019, the situation, as we got to know, was that the treatment plants in Konongo, Chebi, Bonsu, you just mentioned a while ago, and Enyinem, which were among those heavily affected, were all back in operation because you had been able to do some work to ensure that they could get back. Then, before the 2020 elections, the Bonsu water treatment plant was shut down intermittently over high levels of raw water turbidity. Again, the turbidity was as high as 8,000 NTU as compared to the normal, which is expected at about 3,000 NTU, indicated by yourself, the Ghana Water Company. What does this imply in terms of your cost, among other activities, to get water for us?
The implications are probably in three folds. One, we will have to use more chemicals to be able to get the sediments out of the water, to get the clean water to your home. That's one. And so cost has risen. Two, the water that is supposed to come to your home is going to be reduced because now the process loss has increased. What it means is that if you have 100 liters of water that you process under normal circumstances, the process loss should be 5%. And so 5 liters will be thrown back into waste, and then 95 will be sent into consumers. Let's assume each person is taking 1 liter. So you have 95 people to serve. If you go to Odaso now, specifically, we do 50% process loss. And so from this 95% that we're supposed to have, we are having only 50 liters to send. So instead of 795 people, you can only serve adequately 50 people. So if you have a population of 95, you are serving, whether you like it or not. If everybody's demand in a day is 1 liter, you will have to shut some people, and then the other people can get, else people will not get water. So what it means is that our cost will increase, and since we do not have the capacity to transfer or move the cost back onto our consumers on our own, we will be shortchanged, because instead of asking 95 people to pay, you are now asking 50 people to pay at the same rates. But if we were a private entity, of course, we are now going to spread the cost of the 95 people onto the 50 people. But we do not have the capacity to do that because there's a regulator that will determine after you had gotten the expenditure. Then you will now look at the previous years, how your expenditure went. Then in subsequent years, they say that, okay, we are going to review it. So at any given time, you are behind your expenditure. And so you continue to make losses, whether you like it or not, or you make sure you continue to have deficit in your operations.
What does the future look like for what you're doing? And you have been asking, you don't even get, what? The last time you were asking for some increment to help you cushion your cost. How much were you giving? Far less than what you required. What does the future look like, particularly about what you told us, years ago about the fact that if we don't take action collectively, we will come to a point where we have to import water. What does the future look like?
For now, we haven't gotten to that very critical stage. If we take action now, water will clean itself. If we take action today, in few months, few years to come, you see the turbidity coming down. But what we need to do, fortunately for us, we have the scientists on this platform today. What we need to do is that the climate change experts must factor some of these things into their research and not to be looking at the climate factors that bring flooding and other things. For us here, it's evaporation because we are cutting down our trees and allowing our surfaces to be, the evaporation to increase. And so if you go to the north, some of the tributaries of our rivers are dying. They're dying because, one, we are creating sediments into the reservoirs, and for that matter, increasing the surface area. And because of the climate change, the evaporation is increasing. And so if we don't stop the activities of people silting our rivers, including the Galamsey, which is more serious, we will have a problem. But for now, I can tell you, we haven't gotten to that very critical stage yet. It's just that once in a while, Ghana Water Company will have to shut their plants if the turbidity gets to a level because our pumps are not wastewater pumps. Our pumps are not manufactured to carry grit or grit water. Our machines are supposed to carry surface clean potable water. And that is what we will have to be minded.
Now, before I go to Fifi Boafo to, bring us up to speed on the threat to our cocoa sector, I realize that you actually don't want us to limit the discussion as far as it affects the activities that affect the water bodies and water to only Galamsey. You talk about sun winning. And I understand also that you are concerned about fecal matter being dumped into some of the, water bodies that you need to treat for us. How is that thinkable, that people would dump fecal matter into where it's not approved?
And that is where the sociologists will come in. Because I keep, sometimes when I was in academia, you ask your students what they think is the cost of somebody from a community moving to a toilet that has been provided for the community. But instead of getting into the facility, they rather do the thing outside the facility. What's engineering? What's calculations? What can you do about this? These are purely social issues that people will have to...
What's wrong with us? But Doc, where exactly are these happening? Have you spotted them? And what are the steps that, have to be taken? Because you have a duty as leaders.
Exactly. If you go to Weija, that is in an urban setting of Accra. If you go to Weija and look at the quality of the raw water in Weija, you see it to be greenish. What it means is that organic material is being pushed into it. And one major organic material that is pushing is people's fecal matter. And so you will have to ask yourself why people who build around it first and foremost, it is even illegal for people to build there. But they are there, and they are discharging their waste from the households into the water. And it creates a lot of problem. We just 2 years ago, last year, we were using 200 bags of aluminum sulfate to do our flocculation and the coagulation. Today, we are using 300 bags. And so you can see, there's no mining there, but it's increasing our cost. And for that matter, we need to really look at all these things instead of just focusing on that spot called Galamsey and look at how we protect our water bodies in totality. So for me, the future is still not very threatened as much, but we will get there if we don't take the actions today. If you go to Tamale, the water body there is coming from Nawuni, the White Volta. The Sun Winners, they have the guts to carry stones into the river, such that they will be able to move on the stones as bridge to the other side to get sand. And in doing that, they diverted the water away from our headworks. How do you think about this? That people who, after getting their money, they know they've worked, they want to go to the house and have a shower running, and then they go, when the shower is not even ready, the very people who will cry foul that Ghana Water Company is not performing. So these are things that we need to bring together and make sure that water resources is really put at the center of some of these things to protect our water bodies for us.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing with us extensively what is going on and to bring us to a point where we can all begin to appreciate what it is that we must do, else this is the trouble that we are looking to. Now, Fifi Boafo, thank you so very much. Now, we understand that the economic implications, beyond the water getting polluted, the fiscal things that are happening, we understand there is such an impact on cocoa production in Ghana. According to the Bloomberg, and I watched you on PM Express, that you said Bloomberg was actually using statistics that you have done. That's a good job. Now, more than 19,000 hectares of cocoa plantations have been destroyed by Galamsey operators. More than 19,000 hectares. And you say that that figure would even be more by now. Now, cocoa output has slumped by 34% in the first 6 months of 2022 compared to last year. And we're told Ghana is unlikely to meet its initial cocoa output of 850,000 tons this year. Oh. Tell us, what's going on?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Samson. The challenge we face is huge. It's huge because the statistics you put out is a clear demonstration that we risk losing that important industry which the country has relied on over the years. And indeed, I speak to you from Tarkwa this morning. I got here yesterday, and some friends I engaged yesterday in the evening said, well, Fifi, I know somebody who has bought a cocoa farm just 2 days ago, and then they are converting that cocoa farm into illegal mining. So clearly, on daily basis, you have these people taking over cocoa farms and then using the land for illegal mining. So the figure you saw, or the figure we've given to the public, is figure from the beginning of the year. And indeed, let me say, that figure is from 2 cocoa regions, meaning if we do an extensive work, the figure will be more frightening than what we see today. I'm sure we all paid attention to the documentary from the Ashanti region, which your reporter brought. There are instances where the farmers are resistant, making sure that they do not give their cocoa farms out, because paying the farmer 10,000, 25,000 Ghana cedis to take over the cocoa farm How sustainable is that? It is not sustainable. So most of the farmers are very much aware of the consequences of that decision. So the farmers are resistant. But you have instances where the farmers are compelled and they are helpless. Some traditional authorities, what they do is that when these illegal miners, and in some instances, small-scale miners who have been issued licenses by the Minerals Commission, when they go there, the traditional authorities willingly give out the farm and say that, well, we are the traditional authorities, we give the land to you, for which reason you have to leave. Unfortunately, most of these cocoa farmers are migrant farmers who have moved from different parts of the country to where they are presently settled. They are not the real owners of the land. But of course, there have been arrangements put in place to have their cocoa farm on that piece of land. They are compelled to give the land, and they struggle to be able to fight these traditional authorities. Of course, at present, what we are doing is that our legal team is available to help such farmers who are going through that difficulty. But to what extent can we be able to fight all such instances across the country? Apart from that, I mentioned this on your morning show 2 days ago. Farmers now have to carry water from home to the farm before they are able to mix their fungicides and pesticides to spray their cocoa farms, because the water bodies within the farming community, they are not good enough for them to spray. So cost of operation for the cocoa farming is high now. And then a farmer who is already not having enough from his activity now has to spend more, because what they do is that they hire these tricycles to take the water from home to the cocoa farm before they are able to spray. Another challenge we've seen is that, of course, with illegal mining going on, the forest is gone, and then it's having impact on the climate. Hitherto, there were seasons where you know very well that you'll be able to have the rainfall, and as such, you are able to apply your fertilizers and other things. The rainfall pattern has changed now, so predicting when to even apply the fertilizer is becoming a problem. And then the time the cocoa is supposed to flower, it does not flower at that point in time. So it's also even affecting pre-harvest activities. So it is not just the cocoa not coming in, but even the activities and the cost involved is even high at this point in time.
Right, so I can see, as you say, you've, even though from what I know by your work, you are not supposed to be physically part of those who are policing the process, but you find yourself this morning at a location where you have to do some sort of police activity. How much collaboration are you doing with, you know, the police, the army, state security, to ensure that this doesn't go on? Because, look, we simply can't afford it, like you just mentioned.
Yes, before I even talk about the security agencies, the Minerals Commission is one of the state institutions we are collaborating with in order to help deal with the problem. Because the Minerals Commission gave out licenses to small-scale miners who take over these cocoa farms. And the compensation they pay for a cocoa tree is actually 20 Ghana cedis for a cocoa tree, which the farmer can rely on for many years. We believe that just paying 20 cedis for use rights is not enough. So we are presently working on a law that will ensure that if you have to clear a cocoa farm and use the place as a small-scale mining site, you must pay more and not just 20 cedis to encourage them to do so. Apart from that, Cocoa Board has now done polygon maps of almost all cocoa farms, with the exception of Western North, where the team is presently. We are engaging Minerals Commission to ensure that it should not be that easy for someone to just issue license for someone to go into a cocoa farm and then convert into a small-scale mining site, because it is not helping us. But our collaboration with the security agencies, yes, we've engaged them. It has not given us the needed result. I must admit, it has not given us the needed result, but we are still collaborating, we are still engaging them, because we believe it is the way to go. If we do not get their full support and collaboration, we cannot fight it. Because just like the farmer said, At a point, they are unable to even access their cocoa farm because the road to the farm has been blocked. And in some instances, what they do is that if they find a farmer who is resistant and they are able to convince a farmer who has his farm closer to such a farm, they take that farm, mine there, and then they push their tailings into that cocoa farm. And when the tailings are pushed into that cocoa farm, the chemicals affect the fertility of that land. And when the fertility of the land has been affected, the farmer is compelled because he cannot rely on the farm A anymore, except to just give out the farm or just even leave. I remember there was an instance where we went to the Eastern region. There was this particular, I will share the footage with you. You could see the cocoa tree standing there, and almost under the cocoa tree, there are big holes dug all over the farm. So the trees are just standing there. It is because the farmer is resistant. The farmer says, I'm not prepared to give out the farm. And that's what they do at night. And this is not just happening in Western region. It is happening in Western North, Ashanti region, Eastern region, Central region, which hitherto was not the case. Now we are experiencing that. And it is all over the place.
Fifi, the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime tell us that we have 200,000 people who are engaged in galamsey, and nearly 3 million, people rely on galamsey for their livelihood. The point I'm getting to is that you mentioned, non-Ghanaians, foreigners, and their involvement. We have seen many times how too many Chinese nationals are arrested. According to the 2021 Population and Housing Census, we have people from ECOWAS countries who are here. We have 270,000 of them. People from Asia, we have 11,000 of them. People from other parts of Africa, we have 6,000. From Europe, we have 3,000. From North America and South, we have 2,000, almost about 3,000 of them. And then from Oceanian, we have 169. If you look at the figures, those from Asia, a whopping 11,000. Is there any targeted activity to particularly the Chinese nationals? Because we know now, as a matter of fact, that they are the ones behind the Shanfans, these heavy equipment. They are mostly behind the excavators, of course, with their Ghanaian collaborators. Is that a path you have thought about to collaborate with security over this issue?
Well, it's important because I was citing an example of someone telling me about buying a cocoa farm and then wanting to use it for small-scale mining or illegal mining. The person actually went further to say that, you know what, I do not have the machines or the equipment to go into it. So immediately, I'm looking for some Chinese to give this land to for them to go into the small-scale mining. So the involvement of the Chinese is huge. They are everywhere. If you go to Wase Kropong, for example, Wase Kropong is basically part Ghanaian community, part Chinese community. They are everywhere. And the communities around, you have these Chinese there. Yes, we are collaborating with the security agencies. We are engaging them. But my frustration is that it has not given us the needed result. It does not mean that we stop engaging, but the conversation will continue. And our expectation is that they will double up their steps in getting us some result, because as things stand now, if there's no solution to the problem, definitely our cocoa farms will be gone. Someone loosely told me that almost every cocoa farm, there's this perception that there's gold there. And these persons who go into illegal mining and small-scale mining do not have the geological evidence to back their exploration that, okay, indeed, there's gold there or not. So they sometimes go there, and in a matter of a month or two, they are gone, They have very little good from there, but the whole cocoa farm is lost. And the truth is, if you look at the people who are involved, even though we say that, yes, there's unemployment, people might find jobs. A cocoa farm may be serving a family of about 8, 9, and sometimes 15. If you give it out to these small-scale miners or to these illegal miners, maximum 6 months, the entire cocoa farm is gone. The family will be relying on this cocoa farm for 40, 50, 60, sometimes 70 years. Are we suggesting as a people that we prefer just spending 3 months or 6 months to clear something which we could, as a people, rely on for 60, 70 years? I don't think that it solved the problem and it's a good substitute.
Right. Thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu, Executive Director, Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, who is also an environmental scientist, natural resource expert, and lawyer. Thank you for making time to join us this morning. How does it feel sitting where you sit as the Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency, to hear the stories we are told about how even forest reserves are being ripped, and it doesn't appear that there is at least sufficient action to deter? How does it feel being the head of such an institution and these things going on under your watch?
Good morning, Senior Counsel, and good morning to your esteemed panelists, to your viewers and listeners. Indeed, I feel bad. It's quite uncomfortable, and indeed, it symbolizes system failure on our part as a nation. And when I say system failure or systemic failure, I mean from far side up. We've traversed this kind of journey since some 20 years ago. And if I may even go further down, in 1933, the colonial masters banned small-scale mining in pre-Ghana, that is the Gold Coast, by the passage of the Mercury Law. The law that restricted the use of mercury as an amalgam in the processing of gold. At that time, it was called artisanal small-scale mining or artisanal mining. It was banned at that time. 56 years on, 1989, under PNDC Law 271, another law was passed to legalize the use of mercury and then also to bring to life small-scale mining activities. Unfortunately, having legalized small-scale mining and then also legalized the use of mercury as an amalgam, there was no matching legislation or regulations as to how small-scale mining was to be operated. So you go to the minerals, the law that governs minerals exploitation in this country. You go to the Environmental Protection Agency, the law that governs the Environmental Protection Agency. And indeed, all you see or all you know from my end is LI 1662, Regulation 32. That simply says, just so simple, that all activities, mining activities, the operator requires to post reclamation bond. That's all. So you can see that the law expressly does not give the Environmental Protection Agency enough teeth to bite and then also to fully regulate the industry. So yes, I feel bad, not because myself and my entity does not know what to do, or we do not actually have the men and women to undertake that assignment, but the law does not sit so well with us. So, by and large, what we have been doing is to collaborate, coordinate, and help the main institutions that have the regulatory responsibility to help curb this menace. Having said that, it is also not the case that as Environmental Protection Agency, we haven't done anything at all to help try to stem the tide. Council, you may want to know that this issue we're talking about, we're dealing with, stretches and goes far beyond environmental governance to the point of socio-economic and presently the political dimensions that it has taken. And we do know also from natural resource governance systems, including literature, that resource allocation, who gets what and where and whom, has always been a thorny issue all across the globe, particularly in developing countries that rely very much on natural resource exploitation for development and people's livelihood. To the extent that resource care that results in conflict have all emanated from some of the seemingly dangerous scenarios that we find. So it's an unfortunate situation, but I think all is not lost. The government has shown leadership. It is up to us as the citizenry to also beef up what it is there. And here I must commend the sector minister, Honorable Jina, for having taken office under the marching orders of the president, to have taken some initiative. But then I'm also quick to say that we haven't gotten what we want and what the citizenry expects of us.
Doc, I hear you, isolate, lack of legislation as a major problem. Those who are mining lawfully are supposed to do reclamation, you said. From the aerial footages that we see, and even close footages that are done from most of these places, you see them, all they have done is dig their gold and go away. They leave the place not reclaimed. So that's not a matter of legislation. That's simply failure of leadership. You speak about a ban, even, pre-independence Ghana. Are we there? Should there be an outright ban to start with? Because we have lost control, if you like, of the situation?
Let me take the first point. You may also want to know that exploitation of gold or gold extraction has two phases, two major phases. We're talking about large-scale gold mining, and then in this particular instance, small-scale or medium-scale gold mining. The large-scale, to some large extent, is well-coordinated and heavily regulated to the point that the reclamation concept works so well and it has achieved so much of success. 22 years ago, that is when the LI 1652 of 1999 came to life, right away the management of the reclamation bond has been quite efficient and it has been running, and that is why we see so much sanity and discipline within the large-scale enterprise. Even at that point, my administration, through the support of the sector minister, Dr. Kokwepie, have initiated moves to review because 22 years of the legislature, a law that has been working, definitely dynamic circumstances have changed. So together with industry players, and here I'm talking about the large-scale mining companies, which mostly are multinational, and then the banks, the commercial banks that are intermediaries, with whom the bonds are deposited in an escrow account. We've been having rounds of discussion. Recently, the Bank of Ghana is even being loan pool, so we can, as it were, review for the better of the law. Now, coming to the small-scale mining, for some odd reason, 23 years ago, when the last bill was being regulated under the Pushing Reclamation Bond, the small-scale mining were left out. On assumption to operate, I detected this and I informed the sector minister, then was Professor Watson. So I was giving the encouragement and others to initiate the move to get the small-scale mining brought under that canopy. So it can form, the reclamation bond can form a very useful tool in the quest to formalize and regulate the sector. So we did all that and we're working on. The succeeding minister has also been very supportive, and we've gotten it all arranged and all that. I may even want to say that this year, the Auditor General's report captured 2019-2020. Its report captured a point and made a case that the Environmental Protection Agency needs to be surcharged with an amount of 527,000 Ghana cedis, being failure to collect these reclamation bonds from small-scale mining companies. So we were summoned to the Public Accounts Committee, and there we had the opportunity to expatiate, going not to defend, but also to explain the circumstances that have led. Unfortunately, the MPs, the members were very happy to hear that something that has been... Hello?
Yes, Dr. Kokofu, my final question to you will be that Dr. Clifford Brahima of the Ghana Water Company is making a proposal that when you are giving people permits, is it possible to work with the water resources to ensure that the places they are going to mine, they are not endangering our water resources? Because now that is coming at a cost and threatening, our water. Yes,
the point is there has always been a coordination. You see, we are not the major permitting institution. Minerals Commission is, and to large extent...
If this is what your coordination has produced, then you have failed.
What is happening is we do, as a matter of principle or matter of duty, to look at environmentally sensitive situations within the enclave. There are times we have refused environmental permits due to the proximity of the location to water bodies. And the Water Resource Commission has in its own right to also look at that. But then the problem here, Sam, is that you will be confronted with the request where the location is not within 100 or 200 meters of a water body. And then you permit it. The person goes on the ground and decides to move to another location closer to the water where they think they can find a boat. So the people are being touting, I have permits. I'm a small-scale miner, fully permitted, and I am legally working. You can be legally permitted, but your operations on the ground may constitute an illegality. That is where we are not looking at critically. So I agree, we are all in it together. I take his suggestion in good faith. We are on the verge of calling for, with this bond in place, we are calling all these stakeholder institutions together before we roll it out at the end of October. And at that point, we'll be able to also get inputs and all that and see how it works. We are also asking that a reverse of the whole permitting process is instituted, where and no objection must be obtained from Environmental Protection Agency as an first instance before Minerals Commission goes ahead to process. In this case, currently it is not the case. Processing and everything of the documentation will go ahead, and then environmental permit will be sought at the tail end of. It does not work properly. It must start with EPA and end with EPA. With that, we can fully assume the regulatory mechanism so far as environmental protection and safeguarding is concerned.
Okay, thank you for your time. We understand that you have to leave us now. Thank you for your time. We hope that you do a lot more, because the outcome on the ground doesn't reflect, as much what you suggest you are doing.
Yeah. Okay. I get your point. Until we eradicate the cancer, you cannot say you are succeeding. Yes. So my next point, I may have to appear on the show, and then we deliberate fully, and then try to force the support of the entire nation, including you, the media. I know you have been partners all along, but this is the time we need you most. So thank you very much for the platform.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu, Executive Director of the Forestry Commission, for joining us, the Director of the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. I have to come to Honorable Nusra Hussaini now. We thank you so much. You made time. You drove into our studios here this morning, and we want to benefit from, what you saw at first hand. You have been part of the processes when the government called for, a stakeholders, meeting, so to speak, to begin to fashion ways of stopping this. But please pardon me. Let me go to Yao. Let me go to Kwame Sapong-Asiedu now, and please hold on, all of you guys on the line. Dr. Solomon Owusu, also Francis Opoku, as well as Dr. Jesse Ayivo. Please just hold on for us. Now, Doc, we were told this week by the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital that from the reports they are receiving and the people they are treating, Galamsey is killing us. You spoke about this to us a couple of years ago. What do you say? What do you think? I don't know what to think. If I were to speak in my own self, you wouldn't like me this morning. Yes, let's hear you.
Samson, I did put on my Facebook wall today that I was in a state of stoic anger. And the more I've listened to this, the more my anger has increased. I am, because normally when one makes a prediction as a scientist and it comes true, you want to say, I told you so. But as a drug analyst and a quality control person, when you make a prediction, you don't want it to come through because you are involved in quality control and quality assurance. So you are supposed to help break the trajectory to ensure that your predictions don't come true. Because your predictions are premised on, if this doesn't stop, this is where it's going to go. And therefore, you are expecting that it would stop so that your prediction doesn't come true. So when I start seeing the health implications manifest in only 3 years after I wrote the article and spoke to you, I worry. And I'll tell you why. Dr. Ayivo is on the program, and we've got Solomon as well, who are scientists, so they'll know this. The chemicals used in mining are called heavy metals. And they are called heavy metals for a reason. They are called heavy metals for three reasons. First, because naturally, when you use them even on the surface of a soil, by virtue of their weight, they seep into the water table. Second, they are very difficult to get rid of. And thirdly, when they get into the human body, the organs that are supposed to get rid of them are not structured to eliminate them like normal minerals that they are daily used to, and therefore they injure them. So when someone is dealing with heavy metals, you can safely say that the impact health-wise is going to be between 5 and 15 years, at least, because, and that is even on the basis, and I'm quite sure Solomon would speak about that a lot, on the basis of reclamation and also restitution of the environmental damage, none of which is happening as we speak now. So I see this happening in 3 years and happening, people getting renal failure in their 40s. This is worrying, and I'll tell you why again. For some reason, we are created with 2 kidneys, but we only need 1. So by and large, a lot of people function to the end of their life using just 1 kidney. We are finding ourselves with people who have virtually not reached their 5th decade, getting both kidneys lost. That is not normal. Your kidney functions typically like your car, a brand new car with a spare tire. There's no way all 4 tires would blow up, and therefore you need a fit. And that is why even new design cars come with much smaller spare tires, because if a puncture comes, you can use that auxiliary until you've repaired the original one and continue. That's how our kidney works. That's how our liver works. It has a regenerating ability. We're losing that, and we're killing ourselves. And so when you ask me how I feel angry. I feel disappointed. I feel we are a people who deliberately sought out to damage ourselves. We're dealing with something that is destroying our finances. We heard from the Cocoa Board. It's destroying our education because these heavy metals affect the mental acuity of children when it gets into them before the age of 3, and it affects their educational attainment. It's affecting our agriculture and aquaculture. Now we farm fish just to eat. You go to most of these catfish joints and the fish are farmed. They are not coming from our rivers. It's affecting our legal system because we don't even know which is the truth regarding Aisha 1. We don't know whether she eloped to marry. We don't know whether she sneaked. We don't know whether she was deported. We don't know whether she was expatriated. So we cannot even trust our Attorney General and our prosecution process as though they are telling us the truth. And you are a lawyer. Prosecution has to carry the citizens along because justice must be seen to be done. It must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done. So
justice is actually dispensed on behalf of the citizens. The people who sit in the courtrooms as judges are not sitting there because they by themselves are there. They are there because we, the people, actually put them there to dispense it on our behalf. Doc, I suppose we are better off not talking about all of this, confusion, and I just have to regulate myself. So let's talk about what is happening to us and what we can do.
Okay, so I've talked about the mistrust in the justice system. Then finally, it is affecting our security apparatus. Health, which I believe in, is a public service good. It underpins the security of any human resource. And if you look at all health literature, there's a direct correlation between life expectancy, educational attainment, and the gross domestic product of a society. So when you get your able humans dying within 40 and 50 years because of a practice that you could regulate, And you find yourself in the constant perpetual motion of training, because what happens is you don't get people going to the retirement age, becoming senior citizens, doing knowledge transfer. You are killing your human resource, but also killing your ability for transformational development. Which human society would do this to themselves? And as a son of a forester and an environmentalist, I have occasion to ask myself, my dad is 86 years old now. When they were running the environmental fortunes of this country, if they had behaved in the way that was behaved, my grandfather was a sanitation inspector. In his time, the stories he told us, you could not do this in your water bodies. You could not put sewage and effluent into waters. They were called tankers, town council. They'll come and arrest you. But at that time, we were far less literate than we are now. Today, all of us speaking have villages and towns in Ghana. But we cannot even impact on them and leverage them to stop killing themselves. We see what's happening in Elibu. We see what's happening when you drive all over the
Fifi Boafo a while ago was telling us, you know, what was happening. You see what? Can you see that on your screens?
Yes, I can.
The cocoa farms, yes. Because somebody refuses to sell their cocoa farms cheap. Somebody yes. says they have purchased something and they see what they are doing to the cocoa farms. Doc, hold on and let me, Dr. Solomon Owusu, what you are seeing, I know you have been focused on the water pollution, particularly the specific rivers that have, you know, turned into mud, the water that have turned clearly into mud. What do you say? Dr. Solomon Owusu, please unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you, Samson. And let me use this opportunity to extend my regards to your cherished viewers and listeners. It's sad to see things like this because Ghana is not the only country that we mine gold or we mine minerals. Even in the United States, where I am right now, we mine gold. And United States is the third leading gold production country in the world. Ghana is like 8th or 9th or so. So let's ask ourselves whether we mine haphazardly that way in other parts of the world. We all understand that the continuous global demand for minerals, particularly, precious minerals like gold, has made mining a lucrative business and is creating millions of employment for people. Notwithstanding, we can't allow such impunity to go on. Now, if we talk about the mining cycle, the large-scale mining company, when Dr. Kokofu was speaking, he talked about the legitimate, conventional large-scale mining, and then the small-scale mining. He made some comparisons, but I don't want to go into politics today because of the rules, of the game today. But what I can say is, in the typical mining cycle, you start from one stage to another. It's like a sequence. You start from acquisition of the concession, then the proper permitting follows. After that, then we go to exploration. Fifi Boafo touch on it, but let me give some details here. The exploration is where you do some work to understand the mineral, to understand the geology. Then you can make a plan. After the exploration, you go to pre-feasibility studies and feasibility studies to look at the viability of the concession, whether you can get enough gold, in this case, gold from the ground to make profit and also, get investors happy. After the exploration and the feasibility study, that's where we go to development. We put construction in place, development, and then we go to mining, processing. Mining processing is where we get returns. That is the production stage. Then after the production, you do reclamation. Now, mining companies like Goldfields, AngloGold, Newmont, and all that, they go through these processes. But the small-scale miners and the illegal miners, you know, people are focusing on only illegal miners. What about the small-scale miners who have acquired license from the Minerals Commission, who don't also do the right thing? Let's look at that. Now, the small-scale miners, they don't spend money. If you look at the mining cycle, from the concession acquisition all the way to, you know, reclamation, you spend money. The only period that you get returns is the production stage. That is the mining and processing to get the actual goals. Because of the expenditure, and these small-scale miners and the illegal miners are not enforced to do the right thing, they only gather the concession. Even the small-scale miners, they get a concession from the chiefs, and then they do the permitting from the Minerals Commission, EPA, Forestry Commission, and all that. After that, they go straight to mining. They don't do exploration. So they mine haphazardly. If they go and mine here and they don't get the gold, they leave it. They go to another spot, they leave it. They go to another spot. So that's why you see a lot of holes everywhere. But the conventional large-scale mining, you know, mining is capital intensive. So they spend money to do proper investigations to know or understand the deposit before they put the money. After that, after the production, they don't do reclamation. Unlike the large-scale companies that do reclamation. That's the difference. And if you come to the illegal miners, they don't even acquire the land because they are illegal. They don't register the land. They don't do anything. They just find a place, find a spot, they start mining. And if they don't get the money, they leave it. If they get the money, they spend it. They don't do reclamation. So the question is, what is the government doing to streamline the activities of the illegal miners and the small-scale, the licensed small-scale miners? Both of them, they pollute water bodies and degrade lands, both of them. It's not their fault because the methodology that they are using, unlike the conventional large-scale mining, they pollute water bodies and degrade the land, not on their fault because the government doesn't have standard operating procedures for them to follow. That is the problem. People don't know. Because if they have standard operating procedures, why are they still polluting the water bodies and degrading the lands? And if they are following any standard operating procedure, why is the government not monitoring to ensure that the right thing is done? These are some of
Is it not the case, Solomon, is it not the case that the government is simply overwhelmed? Aren't we aware of Operation Halt, the first phase, the second phase, the things that are being done, creating alternative livelihoods? First of all, there was a ban, and then later there was a lifting of the ban in a certain gradual manner. There were streamlining of those who, you know, needed to regularize their processes. Is that not what a government should be doing?
Thank you, Samson. You know, the government is trying. In fact, let me commend President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. You know, I've been criticizing him. But if you look at this Fourth Republic, the president that has been bold, step up and fight Galamsey is Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I will commend him today on your big platform. However, if you are a president, you give responsibility to some people, and you are not getting the expected results, what do? It started from my own friend, Honorable John Peter Amewu. He started very well, and he came to my man, Professor Frimpong Boateng, to Asumatreme, to Abu-Jinapo, they are all using the same approach. Using the military approach will not solve the problem. They need technical input, and after getting the technical input to ensure that right standard operating procedures have been developed for them to follow, then monitoring and law enforcement follows. But using the military to get rid of the illegal miners, what about the licensed small-scale miners who are also polluting the water bodies and degrading lands? So, Samson, to answer your question, the approach that they are using is totally wrong. They need technical input. I'll just give a brief here. I'll not go into it because I may not sell my intellectual capabilities for free. What the government needs to do here, one, and these things I've been telling George Mlekuduka, Honorable, he's my good friend. But there are some powers above him that maybe, anyway, let's put that one aside. I don't want to go into politics today. One, there should be proper land acquisition and registration process. And that process should be short. It shouldn't be very long bureaucratic processes that will let the miners wait for a long time. And because they are waiting for a long time, they go in there and do their own things. There should be a simple, short, but effective process. That is what the government needs to look for. That's number one. Number two, they should decentralize the permitting process. Now everything is Accra. What about somebody who is in Elubo? He needs the permit to mine legitimately if standard operating procedures are put in place. Why should the person travel all the way to Accra? Is Accra the only place that we can get license? They should decentralize it to the local district and municipal assemblies so that they can get easy access to it. Then you go to the development of standard operation procedure that I've talked about. That is technical, purely technical. Then the establishment of mining regulations, proper mining regulations to follow. After that, then corruption-free tax collection system. Now, as I'm talking to you now, the small-scale miners don't pay taxes. So at the end of the day, if they pay taxes, we can use part of their taxes to do all these things that I'm talking about. Monitoring and law enforcement, indiscriminate law enforcement. Now, you arrest Chinese guys, you leave them because of the benefits. I think you still remember the question that I asked Mr. Osafo.
Okay. Solomon, so Dr. Solomon, also thank you very much. We need to take a break here. We would come back and hear from Haruna Inus Hussaini, and then we have Dr. Yivo, also on the line, and then of course we have Kwame and the rest of you. Francis Opoku, you are with the small-scale miners, and you are also being accused. We will also get, final inputs from all our guests this morning. We have chosen sort of a deliberate path that, we need to do the right things. And if you like, as for the shambolic approach as far as the prosecution and all of these things are concerned, the better we focus on something else, the better. The earlier we focus on something else, the better. We will be right back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And we began by speaking with Augustine Bois, who is the Adum FM's correspondent in Western North. He told us the stories about that place. Francis Opoku is Director of Finance and Communications, Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. He will join us. Dr. Solomon Owusu, you just heard a while ago, he's a mining consultant. He's in Colorado in the USA. but very present in Ghana with his advocacy, very consistent. Kwame Sapong Siedu is D&D Fellow on Public Health at CDD Ghana, pharmacist, member of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain, Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, and Institute of Pharmacy Management International. Dr. Solomon Owusu, if you remember him, he appears to be the one who asked questions of Safo Mafo that led to the revelation that somebody was being left off because Aisha Juan was being left off because there was economic benefit in leaving her. The president regretted that later, and these days we have been told one story after the other. You listen and you just cringe. You ask yourself, what is it? People don't know what they are doing in leadership or what. Dr. Jesse Yivo, a senior research fellow, Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, University of Ghana, and member, University of York, UK, University of Ghana Research Team. Fifi Buafo, Head of Public Affairs, Ghana Cocoa Board. And we also spoke to Engineer Dr. Clifford Brahima, Managing Director, Ghana Water Company Limited. He's also still with us. Inus of Seni, a member of, former Member of Parliament and former Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. He's a lawyer. He's here in the studios with us. Dr. Henry Kwabena Kukufu is Executive Director, Environmental Protection Agency. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Newsfile is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Star Assurance, your solid partner. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 years. Fenat Ghana, think wood, think Fenat. Duroplus, how you get your water matters. Remember, where Duroplus goes, water flows. St. Thomas Eye Hospital, providing excellence in eye care. Haptel, everything you. Miway Insurance, dial *165# on the MTN to join. So now, I've been asking myself a question, Honorable Yunus of Seni. The whole state power that we have, we can't use it to fight Galamsey. What else can we be successful at fighting? Galamsey that is threatening our lives, our cocoa industry, our water, everything is at stake. Human lives, kidney problems, now we are being told, are all going on. What else? Jacob Osei-Yeboah, independent presidential candidate, he says, Samson, the 2018 ban on Galamsey and the 2 million ounces from Galamsey in the same year. You remember, while there was a ban, the same year, this is how much that got exported. Mm-hmm. And many people, including Solomon at the time, were shouting, how did this happen? You know, from Galamsey in 2018 clearly depicts without ambiguity that Galamsey kingpins are the government itself. It says, the too much noise on Aisha Juan makes it as if she is the only culprit in Ghana, serving as a distraction to the real fight. All arrests, including her, do not name the licensee of the concessionaires, but the poor workers covering up for the tycoons. Until we are bold to name the tycoons, forget about this, facade of fighting Galamsey, making Ghanaians look stupid in the eyes of the world. I was asking the same question yesterday. We have seen hundreds that have been arrested. We've seen hundreds of foreigners, including Chinese, that have been arrested and allegedly put on trial. In the end, the Fourth Estate did a right to information, request and got information, that suggested that only 2 Chinese nationals are in our prisons. And that was even also because they had actually been left off with small fines. And the Attorney General had to go to court, in a higher court, to contest the decision of the court as to the sanctions that were handed to them, and then got the sanctions enhanced. That's why they are there. Otherwise, they would not have been there. All the time is the small fishes that are caught, not the real guys behind them. And we know them, don't we?
We do. I mean, Samson, and the embarrassment is not only to the international community, but to ourselves. When you know that clearly those in authority are simply turning their back on matters that they are well seized of. Because you see, and you asked a good question, can state power be used to fight a menace like Galamsey, especially since it's targeting and destroying our environment, and also it's now striking at our economic base, cocoa. Sooner or later, we might be unable to sell our cocoa. Our oil is a finite product. Cocoa is a renewable product. And so you must be thinking, if we are unable to solve Galamsey, what happens to the future generation? What happens to intergenerational equity? How are future generations to take care of themselves? That is why I have always said that even though state power, enormous state power, might be a necessary first step, it cannot be the solution to Galamsey.
Explain that.
Well, you see, because the state cannot be everywhere, it's quite expensive to maintain state power everywhere. So you need collaborators.
There are DCEs everywhere.
Yes.
There are police stations everywhere.
The DCEs need collaborators. The DCEs, they need collaborators. So, yes, I agree with you. A multi-stakeholder approach is the way to go. What are we doing in recruiting and enlisting the support of opinion leaders within communities that are being subjected to this devastating mining? What are we doing? What are we doing to recruit the support of CSOs? What are we doing to encourage investigative journalism for people to go behind the scenes? Like GOY says, how do you put a nexus between the ban and the 2 million ounces? How did that happen? Don't we need to understand? Who will take that project up and let us understand how it happened so that government can act? If we leave it to government, I say, as a matter of fact, that while in office, somebody came to me wanting to continue to do Galamsey. I said, no, it's very impossible. You can't undermine the process. We think that we have a duty to ensure that we sanitize the small-scale mining sites. After several attempts to get people to influence me to give him permission, he failed. What did he do? He went and joined a political party, contested an executive position, bought himself the license to mine illegally. So even the political parties must know and must be interested in which people take up our positions. I've never seen a country where political parties simply do not care who comes to contest for positions in their party. Do they do due diligence on them?
We are always told that the BNI, now NIB, always does some work before appointments and things.
Somebody is flaunting his wealth. Is the Ghana Revenue Authority interested in how that person came by the wealth? Is he interested? So that we have a fundamental problem as a country. And that is why I came down from Tamale to take part in this program. probably mobilizing citizens against Galamsey might be the way out. Because we all know the effect on Galamsey. And now, when the doctor spoke in 2013, I had already said that people must be interested in going to the hospitals and seeing whether we are recording stillbirths, whether we are recording deformities, so that we can all appreciate what Galamsey and the use of mercury and cyanide on the illegal mining sites is doing to our country and our people. But until we develop a coherent and effective, comprehensive strategy, all we continue to do is to engage in rhetorics. And rhetorics will not.
After this stakeholders, conference, you were a part of, very integral part, and I remember the president acknowledging you and asking that all of you should put your heads together because you have the expertise, beyond what is on the face, and that's a worthy credit. I thought that everybody thought that we were on the path.
That's what led me. That's what convinced me to accept the invitation to even chair the first session. Because I just said that you need a multi-stakeholder approach. There must be a buy-in of everybody so that people can be emboldened to report to the authorities those who are engaged in the wrongdoing. And you just reminded me of the district chief executive. I said one first step probably was to give the district chief executive KPIs, key performance indicators. Because Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo cannot be in Safi also, cannot be in Edibo or in Kawe. That's why he's appointed people to be there. Fortunately, those people are from those areas. So if you're not interested from Bongo, you're not interested in protecting the people of Bongo and its environs, then are you really worthy of being the district chief executive? Are you really worthy? Because if I'm not interested in protecting the people of Tamale from environmental carnage, then why do I continue to sit down in the office as the district chief executive? And you are the highest political authority. The regional minister is just a coordinator. People tell me that if the district chief executives act, they might get removed from office. What do you suffer if you get removed from office because you are doing the right things? What do you suffer? I mean, at least you leave.
Well, they have come to office, and the idea, generally, wrongly though, of political office in Africa, not only in Ghana, is that it's an opportunity to amass something, get something for yourself and your family.
That is the problem. So nobody is prepared to leave office with a good conscience. But you are put in office to work. You must leave office believing that you contributed to the elimination of a problem or the development of the country. You must not leave office thinking that you have benefited from the occupation of the office.
The little district assembly common funds and things that should come to them, so they would also have independence to engage contractors, and through the procurement process, they would also, what we already know, the proverbial 10%, they would also get something. That doesn't happen. Now it is central government that is procuring everything for them. They just sit there, they hear that somebody is coming to do some work. So if they are in a place where there is mining going on, they find that, as we understand, they are anecdotes, they find that to be the fertile place to also get something.
That's why Dr. Kokofo said it's a system failure. The system is collapsed. That's why the turbidity levels in the water bodies are going high. In fact, the river bodies are dead. We don't want to say that, but that is the truth. The river bodies that we have now cannot support aquatic life.
I think that's obvious for anybody who is looking.
So what are we telling ourselves, those who used to depend on the river bodies? Don't you see that we are exacerbating poverty? Because we are taking away from people their means of livelihood.
Some need that for irrigation
purposes.
Yeah.
They are having to buy water to be able to do that. So
you want to fish and you can't, fish can't live in this water.
My brother, take it from any angle. Galamsey. And I hear people say people's livelihoods. No. The fact that you want employment doesn't justify you going to take up guns and engage in armed robbery. What is sad about illegal small-scale mining, although imperfect a regime we have, there is a regime. There's a legal regime that allows people to apply and be registered as small-scale miners and licensed to engage in that. So we cannot be treating those who have decided to treat our laws with contempt, with kid gloves. We cannot. That's why I believe the state must come down hard. But the state coming down hard can only be effective in dealing with the menace if we engage all stakeholders across the board. Fringe communities, I went to Chicheure as a minister, and the Queen Mother told me that all those, and that story has been collaborated even today by your reporter Adu, all those people who are engaged in illegal small-scale mining are not people from the community. They come from elsewhere. So that should tell you the community can be a veritable source of information in your fight against Galamsey. Why are we not engaging them? The NADMO officer living within the community and looking on when there's a looming disaster waiting to happen. What is he saying about illegal small-scale mining?
How do the people or locals mobilize when their chiefs in some number are telling them, we are powerless, we can't do anything?
No. Power belongs to the people. Even those, yes, some will suffer. I mean, if you want your freedom, you must damn the consequences. You need your freedom. It's never given to you. Here they need their economic freedom. They need to live in peace. They want to protect their property. They must come up and stand up against Galamseyers. The Galamseyers cannot kill them. They might kill some of them. They might wound some of them, but they cannot wound all of them. Look, fear is what...
You saw those pictures from Lubo. You saw those pictures from the Cocobots, monitoring. How the people literally have to give up or give in. Otherwise, they will be killed. That's what is going on. People's compounds, their homes, they are digging for gold.
I saw a town in which the whole town had been ravaged by Galamseyers.
That's right.
And the people were saying that, well, it is the community chief who is giving the Galamseyers the right to do what they are doing to them as a people. But
I don't know what he wants to do with the money he gets.
The chief? But it's not supposed to be their chief. A chief is a chief for the people, not for himself. You are sitting where you are sitting because your ancestors provided leadership. And they are thinking that those traits of leadership inherit in you. That's the same concept that is happening in Britain. Because your ancestors provided leadership. If you fail in providing leadership, nothing prevents the people from removing you as a chief and failing to recognize you as a chief. So the people who are suffering must rise up.
But what should be the state's role? When you see that place, I mean, I don't know what to say about it. You can see that now the buildings, they have cracks all over them because they are giving way, and the people will still have to live in them because they don't have alternatives.
Because the people allowed that to happen to them because they felt that they could do nothing.
Why are you saying they allowed it? They are telling you how their lives are at risk. A reporter cannot go back to the place We know, look at Erastus Asaridonko. Even in the situation where they busted these people, where there was a bit of security support, even that, his life was at stake.
Our reporters cannot go back to the place because they don't feel confident that they'll be protected. That's why they can't go back. And so we have allowed the mafioso to take over. They are dictating and putting in place their laws. That's what is happening. But if our reporters know that what they are doing is in the public interest and is going to serve the interest of this country, and they are sure and confident that the state will provide them with security, they will go back. Because they're doing a public service. But state officials
we are told the stories of how security officials are complicit. We're told about even army, leaders are being escorted by their officials to go and take cash from these, obscure places.
Yeah, and that is the problem. The whole system is so compromised that, sometimes you think that we don't know where to start. The whole system. Because you see, take Aisha Wan's case, for instance. How she even got into the country, went back to Kumasi, engaged in the same activities she was engaged in before she was arrested the first time. It's mind-boggling. But that is only possible because of collaborators. That is only possible because there are people to protect her. And that calls into question our patriotism. Are we just looking on while some group of people are despoiling the environment? The president said in the stakeholders conference, the mining is good, it provides employment. But it must be done responsibly. And I agree entirely with you.
And the responsible part is the process that has been started.
Which one?
And yet, that you were part of the initial processes.
No, the responsible part. And Solomon made a fundamental error when he said that both the small-scale miners and the large-scale, the galamseyers despoil the environment. No. The small-scale miners, the difference is that because they are given a license, that license stipulates the conditions under which they can mine. Now, a breach of that license entitles the minister to withdraw a breach of the conditions of that, and it's in the law. It's in the law. So you are not supposed to mine 200 meters to the water body, period. And so if you are found mining, and you cannot even be given a concession close to a water body.
Well, it's the same laws that you have that says every excavator must have, it must be monitored and cannot get into the mining concessions or mining grounds unless they have these, what do you call them that you put on them?
Tax. The trackers.
The trackers. And they pay for them annually.
Yes. Annually, yes.
And yet the excavators find themselves there. So when we arrest about how many, 500 of them?
700, and
they get lost.
Yes.
So the government had to take a decision to ban them outside.
No. The first time the 700 excavators were seized, about 700, and they got lost, that fundamentally affected the trust and confidence that people will have in the fight against illegal small-scale mining. That compelled an invidious responsibility on government to demand accountability from those that they had put in office. But because we did not see that weakened the fight. Again, there was a flouting of the laws of the country. Act 995 clearly spells out what should be done in the event of a seizure.
Let me go to Dr. Jesse Yivo, Senior Research Fellow, Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, University of Ghana, and member of the University of York, UK, and University of Ghana research team. Doc, thank you so very much for your patience, and we thank you and your team for helping the nation in these discussions because of the, rare insights that you have because of the work that you do. Some of the pictures we have put up are coming from your investigations. At this point, would you say that an outright ban, a complete, cease work, either for small-scale mining or whatever you call it, might be the way to start?
Thank you very much, Samson, and good morning to your esteemed panelists and your listeners and viewers. And I'm happy to be on the program this morning. I very much agree with what Honorable Fuseni said regarding multi-stakeholder approach to this problem. We've gotten to a stage where, in fact, everybody seems overwhelmed. And government over the years, to me, have failed us as a nation. Even the media. So we are in a situation where it's like a patient being in intensive care, and under such situation, you need a lot of surgeons or a lot of specialists to take care of you. And so, for such an operation, you really will have to look for experts who are specialized in certain areas and can take care of that particular diagnosis. Now, Honorable Enusa mentioned multi-stakeholder engagement, and I have also listed a number of stakeholders that can be brought on board. Not necessarily banning the activity outright, but we can take a back seat and probably look at how to be able to solve this problem. I mean, the right way to solve this problem. So for me, if we engage the National House of Chiefs with their sub-chiefs, and then we engage the communities, we also have to engage the Minerals Commission, Water Resources Commission, the Forestry Commission, society. And I think one of my panelists also mentioned that CSIR should be involved, the academia should be involved, and the small-scale miners association should not be left out. Together, in fact, it should be, a multi-stakeholder body that, for me, the government or the president, agencies or these bodies as a committee that will sit down, look back, diagnose all the issues, what are the real problems. Is it about livelihood enhancement? Is it about lack of law enforcement? Is it about our institutions being weak or whatever? So if you bring all these stakeholders together, for me, they will have to, just like it has started, they have to sit down and brainstorm and come out with the right diagnosis. Otherwise, most of the actions we have taken so far are just on ad hoc basis. It's like I said, taking care of a patient and under intensive care, and we are administering just a painkiller to that patient. On the surface, the problem may go within minutes, but it will resurface, and that is what our problem is. Like you rightly said, yes, our research has taken us to Etiwa West District. The footage you show at one point actually is a part of our research. And that particular footage where a whole township appears to be, devastated, to be destroyed. What happens there is a new system of mining called the, in fact, the local people call it the Queen system. Is the metal detector system, where they use a metal detector to kind of scan the earth surface and, exploit or look for this mineral. So wherever the mineral, I mean, anything metal, it can be even an ordinary nail or anything metal is detected, then this device beams, to indicate that there is something there. And then immediately they start digging. So you see people digging right, behind people's buildings. They dig within households. They dig on compounds. They dig everywhere. And they
why?
Doc,
are we subhuman? What's going on? How can that be going on in people's homes? I don't get that. Can you tell us how that goes on?
Yes. When the metal is detected near somebody's home, the operators negotiate with the house owner. In fact, normally, from our investigation, we were told that some of these operators, they hire the machines. They hire the machines, and the operators themselves, negotiate with the house owner. They offer huge sums of money, which can put up another house for that particular house owner. They offer huge sums of money, and the house owner is willingly, willingly gives out his or her house. So they, come in, do the mining, take their gold, give you your money, and then you go and resettle yourself elsewhere. That's what they do. And money is actually changing hands here, and it's like money is everything to them. So that is the problem. And when you ask everybody in the community, they will tell you our ecosystems have been destroyed. Our ecosystems have been destroyed. And like you rightly said, cocoa farms have been dug around. People don't have access to their farms. But the most dangerous aspect is the fact that most of the places you see as bushes around most of these communities are left abandoned pits which have collected water and have aquatic weeds grown over them. So if you are not even careful, you are going to get drowned in these pits.
So your research, to what end?
Come again, please.
The work you are doing, to what end? What's the end game?
Well, I think my colleague was on the program last week.
That's right.
And our plan was to stage a theater to educate the community members, start with the community members which are affected, and then from there we bring that theater to the national level. But it couldn't materialize because of the resistance we had from the community members. So the research is not ended yet. Now we are engaged in what we call photo voice, where we are still engaging the community members to come out with environmental issues or environmental problems that they have found to be pertinent in their areas. And so they go out to take pictures of environmental issues. And then we are going to have an exhibition very soon in the Kibi College of Education, the College of Education Kibi. We are going to have an exhibition there very soon to, see some of these environmental issues. I mean, in the form of pictorial, in the pictorial form. So we are going to invite some of the stakeholders to come to the exhibition to see what these pictures.
Did you say the community members, the community that you are seeking to bring salvation to, they are rather resisting you?
Yes, they were resisting because, particularly in that community, the community's name is Esunafo. There was a group that was strongly against Galamsey. And so anybody at all who goes there, whether you go there with good intentions or bad intentions, they suspect you to be coming to promote Galamsey. So that is the reason we're not allowed to go on with our theater program, because when we visited the community, of course, we had to report ourselves to the chiefs, or we have to, contact the chiefs and the elders. And they felt that the chief and the elders have been compromised because the chief and the elders, more or less were trying to, bring in Galamseyers to the community. So once we went to seek permission from the chief and elders, they suspected, us to be part of that team. And so we didn't allow us to carry out with our program.
Okay. Francis Opoku, you are Director of Finance and Communications for the Ghana Association of Small-Scale Miners. It doesn't appear you and your people have been responsible enough that despite all the efforts, and you would have heard everybody is talking about multi-stakeholder, people are just tired of this cliche. Every time, multi-stakeholder, we have been doing it for how many decades now, and we still can't see anything. And that's a question I get asking myself over and again. What's just wrong with us? What can we achieve? What at all can we achieve? If we can't achieve this thing, stopping the wrong that are being done. We know the Lands Natural Resources Ministry, has a special process, actually together with the support of other ministries, the Defense Ministry, the Interior Ministry, the police. They are doing everything to get you guys to do the right thing. What's this? What else can they do?
Okay, Samson, let me take this opportunity to greet our distinguished co-panelists there and say good morning to you too and your charity viewers and to all small-scale miners in Ghana. Samson, to be honest with you, most small-scale miners, licensed small-scale miners, my group, are equally concerned and worried when we see some of these pictures about destruction of our water bodies and then our forests and the emerging consequences that we face as a country. And honestly, we are even more worried because at the end of the day, it's our work that is at stake. If there should be a ban, like you've been mentioning, we suffer most. But before I go on, let me come back to my brother, Dr. Solomon. We know how passionate. Correct. He says small-scale miners don't pay taxes. He's wrong. Small-scale miners pay taxes through withholding tax. And we all know that withholding tax is one of the tax regimes that are very effective. And it was even recently that the government of Ghana reduced it to 1%. Initially, it was 3%. So we were even grouped as people who pay a lot of taxes. And it was like it affects everybody. Secondly, he also said that small-scale miners mine haphazardly. And I'm happy Honorable Minister Afuseni came to correct that impression, which is wrong. Small-scale mining certificate licenses are site-specific. So you can't, and we are operated, we are monitored, our operations are monitored. We have the coordinates guiding where we are supposed to mine and where we are not supposed to mine. I will not say that everybody goes strictly by that because, it's not everybody who will actually go strictly by the laws. People are culpable, people can violate once in a while. But one thing that a lot of people don't know is that when it comes to licensed small-scale miners, we are people who have gone through the process to acquire licenses legitimately from the Minerals Commission, which have been signed by the minister. And we are about only 25% in this sector. We have illegal mining that comprise people who are working right on the water bodies, which is totally illegal. And then people who are working in our forests, our forest. And the people who are also working on prospecting and mining lease that are not meant for small-scale mining activities. But this is where there's a glitch, something. If you want to get to the actual cause of illegal mining, it is those who are working in our forests and those who are working on the water bodies. When Minister Abu Jinapor took power, there was a call for consultative dialogue, which we all applauded the initiative. And we suggested that there should be, there should be consultative, discussion enough, and there should be collaboration from all stakeholders, which my Honorable Minister has alluded to the fact that we all embrace it, we're all happy. And we were thinking that once that call has been made and we have all made input into the process, the implementation was also going to go the same line. Luckily, I was the one who spoke on behalf of for the small-scale miners. And we came out clearly that the concentration should be on the water bodies. We should focus there first. And then the forest resources, the forest and reserves. But when the minister came out to say that, okay, there have been some red zones where the military, the joint task force of the military, they should go and then tackle, we expressed concern that if they veer off, it will not achieve the results.
Okay, I think we lost Francis there. We will try and get him back so that he would give us, everybody else is going to give us some 2 minutes of what they think concretely has to be done on the back of the layers of activities that have been ongoing in this regard. Abu Jinapor, Samuel Abu Jinapor joins us. He's the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good morning, my good friend Samson, and good morning to your panelists and to your listeners. Yes.
Thank you. Now, the UGBS policy brief on the fight against Galamsey tells us that there's an article, they tell us that the illegal mining, as we know, has persisted in Ghana, not because of weak state capacity, but primarily because of political leniency and law enforcement corruption. And their conclusion is that any anti-Galamsey crusade that fails to tackle the political drivers of the problem is unlikely to succeed. When conventional means appear to fail, are you contemplating some unconventional approaches? Because, as is agreed, your ministry and what you have been doing, that's a lot of work, but it does appear the results is not seen.
Yes, so Samson, thank you very much. And once again, good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers. The report that the University of Ghana is supposed to have come out with, and also the numerous commentary which I've followed about this age-old menace of illegal small-scale mining, they are all absolutely welcome. I mean, I think I need to make that point and make it possible. They are all absolutely welcomed, and the contributions and suggestions various people have made individually and collectively are all absolutely welcome. Now, the reason why I say it's welcome is anybody who has a careful understanding of the extractive industry anywhere in the world, whether it's the petrochemical industry or the mineral sector or whatever, will agree that the issue of illegality and the sense of entitlement and the fact that the common denominator of that industry is money, because we're talking here about gold, and gold is really money. And therefore, those illegalities tend to be endemic, and dealing with them tend to be complicated. Now, you recall that when we held the consultative dialogue in April last year, we came out with a resolution that dealing with illegal small-scale mining will not be an event, it will be a process. But it will be a process which required a concerted, sustainable action anchored on integrity and transparency, and which is why I agree with this report, this policy statement, that whatever you do, if your effort or your law enforcement effort is tainted with politicization or is discriminatory, or if you want, it deals with one section of people but doesn't deal with a certain group of people, you are bound to fail. Now, I must say that a good deal of work has gone into this matter of small-scale mining. And we have been dealing with this matter from a two-pronged approach, the reformative approach and the enforcement approach. They must go hand in hand, which is that whilst you are enforcing the law, you also must put in place a regime which makes that sector sustainable and which makes that sector viable. Always and always remember that small-scale mining contributes 40% of Ghana's gold output. And the gold industry gives Ghana its highest foreign exchange earnings and is the highest revenue mobilizing sector when it comes to exports. So there's a link between small-scale mining, gold output, our national economy, our currency, our foreign exchange status, and all of that. So when you are dealing with small-scale mining, you have to deal with it tactfully, because you don't want a situation where you also roll out an enforcement regime which literally kills the sector completely, which will mean you will lose 40% of your gold output, which will mean you will lose income into your national economy, which will jeopardize your economy. So whilst you are regulating the sector, which is a reformation, which are some of the things we've done, community mining, bringing the gold processing, gold catcher, mercury-free gold processing equipment, reforming the licensing regime, the cadastral maps we brought, the online applications, working actually hand in gloves with the small-scale miners association to make sure that we identify those who are engaged in that industry responsibly and in a manner which doesn't jeopardize the environment. That is one bit of it. Then the second leg of it is the enforcement regime, which is where the matter you put before me comes in. How do you proceed on that? And how is it being done? What I can say is that you recall that a lot of measures were put in place, decommission of excavators, really going after these illegal small-scale miners, declaring forest reserves and the river bodies as red zones. And that also came up with its own controversy and its own commentary. You have to be too high-handed. You are clamping down on people who are trying to make ends meet, and so on and so forth. It will appear that in that period, there is some resurgence of this phenomenon of illegal small-scale mining in a manner that is not satisfactory. It simply means that we are going to ramp up the enforcement mechanism, the enforcement measures. And this has been occupying almost all my time in the past week or two. And in the days and weeks to come, the Ghanaian people will see that the enforcement measures are going to be ramped up. But I need to caution that it cannot be an event, something, and it cannot be the responsibility of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources alone. It is going to be a collective responsibility. There is a public relations aspect of it, which I'm holding meetings on, for example, on Monday, that all of us, including yourself, Joy FM, all of us, chiefs, political leaders, opinion leaders, assemblymen, the citizenry themselves, all of us have roles to play. And collectively, I believe that we will be able to come to grips with this matter. But I want to really conclude on responding to you by insisting But a good deal of work has been done on this matter. A lot of results has been achieved. We've moved several steps forward. We are not at a satisfactory situation yet. It will appear that there is a legitimate concern about this phenomenon rearing its ugly head again. Of course, there have been videos I've seen which are as old as 5, 6, 7, 10 years old, which certain people are, for their own purposes will put out into the system to generate needless hysteria and all of that. But that is not my concern. My concern is how we take action to make sure that we move forward with this matter. And moving forward, we will, definitely.
So I ask that question, if the conventional approaches don't appear to, bring as much results as you expect, how about unconventional approaches? And you seem to rule out one of them. Among the public, the suggestion is that go back to when you issued a complete ban. There are some who are suggesting, can you declare, or the president, get the president to declare a state of emergency in those areas affected by Galamsey as a process of, managing and controlling the situation?
So, first of all, outright ban of small-scale mining, it is not new. It's not novel. We've done it before. In 2017, 2018, or 2018, 2019, I think, small-scale mining was outrightly banned. That's been done before. So the question as to what were the ramifications of that and how did that work out, I think we all have to examine that. I have done that examination. And banning of small-scale mining or such sectors in the international arena in terms of other countries, I think that the literature is there for all of us to appraise ourselves of that. So the question about banning small-scale mining is not a matter we have not attempted before. So we need to examine how that panned out. Number two, I've already indicated to you that Ghana until 2022 was the #1 producer of gold in Africa, who were #6 in the world. Gold continues to be the #1 foreign exchange earning for the country. Indeed, today as we speak, the Bank of Ghana has rolled out a gold purchasing scheme to shore up our currency. They are buying gold out there, out of small-scale miners with cedis and converting it into dollars to shore up the city. So pay attention to that as well, respectfully. Thirdly, as I say, the small-scale mining sector contributes 40% to our gold output. So you can readily tell the implications of it on our gold output if it is banned outrightly. And then you also talk about the fact that we should put an outright ban on small-scale mining and come to grips with it and so on and so forth. My attitude will be that we continue to strike that balance between reforming the sector, because there are those also who are involved in small-scale mining, who are doing it legitimately, who are reclaiming the lands they excavate concurrently, who revegetate, and who even revegetate with economic trees such as palm trees, and who employ hundreds and thousands of people in communities, and who contribute to the local economy and the national economy of our country, who do it legitimately. I can take you to several community mining schemes where they are sick bay, where they are changing rooms, where they mine responsibly, just as it's done in Australia, in Canada, in USA, in South Africa, and other places. Okay. So we need to focus on ramping up our efforts in bringing that kind of situation to be the norm rather than the exception.
Thank you very much. Cocoa Board, Water Company, all of them are concerned, and they are all depending on the leadership that you bring, especially at the very top, to make sure that these things don't continue to endanger the country's economy and our livelihoods the way it currently is. Thank you very much once again, John. Samuel Abu Jinapor, he's the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Kwame Asiedu-Sapong, whose presentation was truncated, if I could get a minute of him back on the issue of the disease and things. Kwame, thank you very much. A neurologist is suggesting to me that it is important to be cautious about how we present things, not to unnecessarily, scare people that you can function with one normal kidney, but that is not the norm. And when you have kidney failure, by default, both kidneys are damaged. The second kidney is not a spare part. That there's a need to correct some impression that was created wrongly. What will you say finally about the health issue?
I have left this conversation, I haven't listened to everyone, thinking that we are not addressing the health issue. We haven't gotten anywhere near addressing the health issue because we haven't even started dealing with the problem of illegal mining properly. I just listened to the minister. And for me, that should concern all of us. And that is where I'll leave it. It should concern all of us that we haven't even started dealing with the health implications. So without wanting to say anything, it probably will get worse before it gets better.
Okay, so we definitely would need, as it were, another session to focus on the health issue properly, because we need you all to be on board to discover that we are doing ourselves a lot of harm and future, and we can't afford to do that. If you had just a sentence, what will you say?
Well, I think that our well-advised leadership of this country not to over-concentrate on the contribution in terms of monetary terms to the economy of this country. That is letting us to continue to commit all the errors that we are committing.
Thank you very much, Honorable Inus Afuseni, also for your contribution. As always, my outfit is by